So let us create a model of one-story building. I want to create a model of one-story building because I just want to mimic the 2 degree of freedom system. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 2D frame, and let us consider one story because effectively it is a one-story building, and the base layer is the isolation layer. Number of bays are basically 1. Story height I'll leave it at 3, and bay width as, let us say, 5 meters. All of these are in kilonewton meter, okay, units. For the beam, let me just create beam here, or let me just do it later. Actually, I will do it later. So you have this model created. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to define some frame sections, which would be basically the beam and column section. Okay. Or before doing that, let me just define the material property. It would be easier that way. So I'm going to define material. I will add a concrete column. So I need to add the concrete material. Let us say it's, I will use India, concrete, Indian, and we'll use M25 grade concrete. So when I do this, it automatically calculates all the properties and everything and add it to there. If you want to check, you can go to modify show material and look at the properties here. Okay, for example, if you look at the modulus of elasticity, it is 2.5 into 10 to the power, I think 8 or something. Basically, it is using that formula, under root FCK, 5000 FCK. 5000 under root FCK. So from there, 25 root is basically 5, and that multiplied with 5000 is basically what you're getting here. Other properties are auto-filled. Okay, so all I need is that concrete for the concrete columns and sections. Okay, and then I'm going to define beam and column sections. So let us go ahead and add a new property, and let us define concrete column, the rectangular column. I'm going to go for 300 by 300 this column. It's very nominal. This is I'm not doing as per any design or anything, just for the demonstration purpose. And I will select the material here to M25 that I have just created. Okay, and then column is created. Then I will add beam as well. So again rectangular, and I'll again keep the same thing, 0.3 by 0.3. Okay. So 25. I will call this as beam. All right. Once the sections are defined, okay, let us now assign the section to these. So the columns I will select, and I will assign frame sections as column. Okay. And then what I'll need to see, I need to create a first, or let me just do this. First, let me create the fixed based structure, or for the base isolated structure, we need to have a base mat. Remember, I'm only considering a 2D analysis. Okay, so maybe I should do it like this. So I will need to create a beam here as well to represent the base mat or base beam. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a beam. Let us call this beam. Okay, draw it here to here. Okay, now what we still need to define the beam section to the top one. So I'm going to go ahead, define, assign frame section and beam. So now you can see that all the beam and columns have been defined. So this is the MB that I was talking about, remember, and this is the M, and the total would be the mass of everything. Okay, now the base condition I need to change, right? Because I need to add the isolator at these levels. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this restraint that was auto assigned. So I'm going to go joint restraint. And then just remove this. Okay. Now Right now, I only have the dead weight of the structure from the self weight. We need to add the superimposed dead load and as well as the live load. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to define load patterns. Dead load is already defined, which is due to the which has the self weight multiplier of 1. Then the superimposed dead load, which might be due to like furnishings or like tiles or a lot of other things are there. I'm going to define that. I'm not modeling that. I'm imposing like apart from the dead weight that I have modeled here. So for that, the self weight multiplier would be 0. Okay, because self weight multiplier is basically whatever you have modeled and the weight coming from there, the density of those elements. Superimposed dead load is what you impose in addition to the elements that you have modeled. Okay, so I will add this superimposed dead load and then I will add live load as well. This is of the type live. Okay, again self weight multiplier as 0. All right, 3 load patterns are created. Now let us do this. Select these two and let us first assign the superimposed dead load. So I'm going to assign frame loads, distributed, and in the dead we don't have to define because dead is basically the self weight. So we don't have to assign in addition to that. We need to define the superimposed dead load and I'm going to assume a nominal value of 10 kilonewton per meter. Okay. Then I will apply that. So you can see that 10 kilonewton is now being applied. Then I have to define the live load and let me assume the live load as 5 kilonewton per meter and I would apply that. So now 5 is applied. So both loads are now being applied. Then for the analysis, I need to define the mass source. Remember, when we talked about the seismic weight, we said that the seismic weight is typically the weight of the dead weight of the structure plus some portion of the live load, right? So we need to specify that. So in the mass source, if we go modify, right now you can see that only this one is checked. The mass source is only element self masses and additional mass. But we want that superimposed dead load and live load also contributes to the total weight for the modal analysis and other analysis. So I'm going to as S dead as full load because superimposed dead load would always be acting, but 50% of the live load I'm going to assume. Okay. So now we have defined the mass source. Next step would be to define the isolator element. So for defining the isolator element, you can go to section properties, then link and support properties, and you can add a new property here. And in this case, you can go to, there are different type of link and the elements, bearing elements here. So we want to define rubber isolator. Okay. And we will call it LRB. Okay. Now this is a 2D analysis. So we are only going to assign U1, U2, U3. Now remember, this U1, U2, U3 is actually not the global XYZ. So just keep in mind, for a bearing, U1 direction is the axial direction and U2 and U3 direction are the two horizontal direction. Okay. So first let me start with some nominal value. Let me say it is effective stiffness as 100 and I'm defining as linear. Although the actual behavior is non-linear, but let me assume for this modal analysis, because anyway, even if you consider non-linear behavior, for modal analysis, it only takes the linear properties. So you'll have to define the linear stiffness. So I'm defining as effective stiffness. If you wanted to define non-linear, then you just check this one and this window will change. Can you see here? Now you'll have to define stiffness, yield strength, post stiffness ratio, that alpha that we had discussed. So we'll come back to that when we'll do the later, basically a detailed tutorial on this. Okay. So right now it is linear, 100 kilonewton per meter. Okay. And then in this one, effective stiffness is again 100. Okay. And the vertical stiffness is much larger than the horizontal stiffness. Let us say 20 times. So I will define it as 20,000 or sorry, 2000. Okay. And I'm not defining any damping right now because for modal analysis, it does not matter. Okay, so I've only defined these three directions and then I set it to be okay. Next step is to create that isolator at the isolation level. So I will go here. Basically, I'll go here, draw. Okay. One joint link here. And I will select LRB. There is only one link element. So this is LRB here. Once that is selected, just click on this one. A spring type element is shown. This is the isolator. Same on the second one. Again, a new isolator is drawn. So now the isolators are connected. You don't have to do anything else. This isolator by default, one link. Yes.
So what was the first step to define the isolator? We need to go in draw tab and then
First you need to define the isolator properties. So that we need to go to section properties and the link properties, add a new property, and in that one assign whichever type of isolator you're defining. If rubber isolator like this, and then you activate whichever direction you want to define.
Yes,
okay?
Sir,
that was the first step. Then to draw that isolator or create that isolator, you go to draw and then draw one joint link. Okay. Once you create one joint link, then you can draw wherever you want. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So this is now created. Now we need to define modal analysis load case. So in the load case, modal is by default always defined by the software itself. And in this one, let us say you want to get 12 number of modes, although it might not have those number of modes, but let us say you want to see whatever number of modes you are here. And there are two types of eigenvectors and Ritz vectors. Okay, so let us leave it at eigenvector. Okay, you don't have to do anything else. Click OK. All right. So now we have defined everything. I have assigned some random stiffness properties, stiffness values to isolator. I don't know whether those are, I have not designed them actually. So we will change that and we will see changing how does it affect the overall response, the modal response actually. Before going into run the analysis, remember it's a 2D analysis. Okay, so you need to set the analysis as 2D. Otherwise, what will happen? It will show you other direction as well. So you have to go to analyze, set analysis options. In this one, select XZ plane because our structure is a 2D structure in XZ plane. So I will select this one so that it will do basically a 2D analysis, not a 3D analysis. Okay, and yeah, so analysis option is set. Then I can go ahead and run the analysis. I can run all the load case, or if you want only the modal load case, then you can do that as well. So let us see, let us run now. First I need to save this. Let us say go ahead here. Okay. One story building. So right now it is showing the deformed shape for the dead load. I want to see what are the modal properties. So I will go to this, basically you can click here, show deformed shape, and in this you can select here the modal. Okay, and then apply. Now this is your first mode shape. Okay, so what are we getting this? It will show you the time period here as well. The time period you are getting for this structure, the first mode time period is 1.82. Okay, let us look at the second time period. You can go ahead, or you can let us animate the first mode, see how it is deforming. Can you see that, all of you? So this is the isolated mode. Okay, the second mode I want to see. Again, it is due to rocking motion actually. Okay, and then the third mode is the vertical. Because my structure is super stiff, okay, all these primary modes are contributed by the isolation. Now this is, let me first show this is again the isolator mode. Okay, so because of this is a frame structure and the mass is not large, you can see that you can see the isolator mode and the superstructure mode, which is not exactly pure superstructure mode, but a combination of both. Now, the way to see is how much of each mode is contributing to the total response. You can go to display and show tables. Okay. Now in show tables, what you can do actually, you can go to structure output, then the modal information, then the modal periods and frequencies, and you also want to see the modal mass participating mass ratio. And you click OK. Now you see that the first mode frequency is 1.82, the period, sorry. And the second mode period is 0.47, which is much less than the first mode. And the contribution of the first mode is 0.998, which is almost equal to 1. And the only reason that we are getting such close to, value close to 1 is because my superstructure is very stiff. And overall, all the response in the primary mode is contributed by the first mode. Okay. Now, the second mode you can see is contributes very, very less, 0.00174. Okay. So this is the case where the isolation is very effective because superstructure is very stiff. Now let us do one thing. Let us go ahead and change the stiffness of the isolator so that it becomes comparable to the superstructure. Okay. And then see what happens to the overall participation factors. Because we have said that this frequency should be spaced apart. Right now it is 1.82 and 0.47. What we'll see next, as we change the stiffness of the isolator so that it becomes comparable to the superstructure stiffness, let us see what happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do, in the link support properties, I will go to this LRB element, modify it, and then the shear stiffness, which is U2 and U1, I'm going to change it. And let us make it maybe 5,000 here. Okay, so I'm changing it significantly so that it becomes comparable. And same for the, so U2 and U3 direction, if it's a symmetric isolator, it would have the same stiffness. So when I'm changing U2, U3, remember vertical stiffness would also change. So I have to change that accordingly. So I will again multiply it with 20 times. This is just an approximate value estimation. And then if I multiply it with 20, I will write this as, let us say 20 times 5, it would be 100. And let us say now again redo the modal analysis and let us see how the frequencies and the mode shapes actually change. So, okay. Now what do you see the first mode? It has decreased from 1.87 to 0.32. Significant reduction, right? And if you look at, see what you're seeing now in the first mode, you are getting superstructure deformation as well. If you remember when we had the first analysis, in that one superstructure was almost moving as a rigid block, no relative deformation here, okay, or here. But in this case, you are seeing that isolator is also deforming and the superstructure is also deforming in the first mode, which is pointing towards increased contribution of the superstructure response in the first mode. So it is not purely an isolated mode anymore. Okay. And that you can see from the response as well, that it is having the isolated mode, basically isolated deformation as well as superstructure deformation, because their stiffnesses are not comparable and their frequencies are not comparable. Okay. So we can go for second mode as well, and we can see that similar is the case as well. And if we want to get the exact value, okay. Now again, if you look at the second mode, it is not that far apart, right? That is 0.32 and this is 0.14 almost. Let us look at the participation factor. Remember, in the first case, the first analysis we did, we were almost getting first mode 100%, 0.998. Now let us see what happens. So if you look at here, again check the same thing. Okay, what do you see? What is UX here? It is now 0.86, isn't it? Right? So the contribution of first mode actually has decreased. It has decreased from almost 1.998 to 0.86. And your mode 2 is not 0 anymore. It is almost 0.14, so 14%. Okay. And I mean, that is you can see it here. Okay. You can look at all the modal contribution here. So what does it say? As you increase or make the frequency of the isolated mode or frequency of the isolated structure comparable to the corresponding fixed base superstructure, your isolation efficacy basically decreases and you start to see more contribution of the non-isolated modes. Okay, like this one, it has decreased from 1 almost to 0.86, and the superstructure mode, the contribution has increased to 14. Is it clear to everybody what I'm trying to do here and show you here? Any doubt up to this point? Anybody? Okay. And just to demonstrate that again, let me again make it very flexible. So that I again show you. Right now, see, you are seeing the deformation in the superstructure, right? Let me do that. Let me make it again very flexible and then I'll again change it back. So modify show property. Let me decrease it again by say 10 times or 50. Let me make it 50. And if you want, you can change the U1 as well, but I'm just keeping it same because it is basically ensuring that it is very rigid. Or let me change that. Doesn't matter actually. 50 times 20 would be it would be 20, so 100, 1000. And let us analyze and then see. Now, when I do the analysis, you see whether there is any deformation in the superstructure in the first mode or not. Can you see? Is there any deformation in the superstructure? Are you seeing any, basically like most of the responses contributed through the deformation in the isolator, and you can see it is almost moving like a rigid body, and that is basically what somebody mean when they say that isolated structure can be assumed, I mean for some cases, to behave like especially the isolated mode, behave like a rigid body mode. Okay, it behaves like so this assumption is valid when the frequencies are very spaced apart. And always talk in terms of frequency separation, because now if you see, the first mode is 2.57 second, second mode is 0.66 second. So there is enough separation. Okay. So talking absolutely in terms of only mass or only stiffness might still make sense because masses are almost comparable, but it is technically, to be right, always talk in terms of frequency separation, that epsilon that we discussed in our examples. Any doubt up to this point, anybody? I hope you have understood the demonstration of the participation factors and the mode separation in a base isolated structure.
Yes, sir.
Anyone? So I hope that you can utilize this knowledge and you can further, if you want to investigate, look at the properties. Okay, you can further create 2-story or 3-story, make it more flexible superstructure and then see how does it behave, what is the contribution of the mode. But it is very important to understand whenever you use any tool, numerical tool like a software or anything else, to make the sense out of the result. Otherwise, you can get any numerical result. Unless you can make a sense out of it, it would not be very useful to you. Okay.